Welcome to part 3 in the webinar Self-Supported Touring in the Himalayas, which talks about planning your self-supported independent journeys on cycle, running, or biking. In this third part, we're going to talk about gears and schedule. We'll discuss about what are the different types of luggages you need for basic gears for camping and for the cycle. We'll talk more in detail about the schedule, actually, the route schedule, as well as the daily schedule, food and hydration, navigation, how you find your way, the night stay, the people on the way, and a couple of scenic route suggestions for self-supported touring in the Himalayas. You can find the HD videos on my YouTube channel and ultrajourneys.org, and a 10-minute preview is available on Insta TV and Facebook. Okay, let's get started. So when you do a self-supported journey, obviously you're gonna minimize your luggage because you'll have to carry it the entire way. So that's either gonna put a lot of strain on you as you carry it yourself as a hiker or a runner, or as you carry it on the cycle or the bike. Remember that you're gonna go through pretty rough terrain, through pretty extreme weather, so your baggage will also go through the same stuff. Adding more load on the cycle is going to cause more impact. You also have to plan from a flight, from a travel point of view. On a flight, typically you only get 15 kg check-in and carry in 7 kg. Your cycle plus your tools and your packing will already be close to 19 kg, so that takes care of the check-in. Part of it actually has to be carried in check-in, which means the camping gears and the clothing and the others. So cycle pannier is there, cycle saddlebags are there, adding further weight. So if you go, for example, with 3 cyclists and 1 runner, you're going to carry 3 times 19 kg plus 5 kg 2 tents. And then also all your individual clothing and others, so that will easily add up to some 60 kg spread over 4 people checking into the flight, meaning 15 kg per head, so just enough actually not to pay extra. Camping gears again add a lot of weight. A Quechua T2 which fits 2 people is easily 2.4 or 2.2 kg, the latest version. Even a little more, 3 plus kilograms for a 3-person tent. Sleeping bag, you can use an S15 from Quechua, which is pretty much okay, combined with a mat and a tent. Tent will block the cold wind out there. Sleeping mat and torch obviously are also important to find your way in the dark as you camp in the middle of nowhere. Sleeping mat is essential to keep yourself warm and dry from the cold, wet underground in the mountains. Cycle gears then, make sure to only go with a service cycle. You don't want to break down and completely screw up your tour. Lights and a zipper bottle are important. You have to carry some water with you and have a light for the nights. Odometer and GPS watch or a mobile phone with a GPS app is important to check your progress, daily progress, that you know how far it still is to your night hold site. Very essential, which most people don't have, is of course a pannier to carry stuff and saddlebags to put in your stuff on the back. That is very important because you're gonna carry quite a bit of weight, so good quality pannier, which is also not too heavy, so like a lightweight aluminium alloy, and some good saddlebags which are either waterproof or you'll have to cover with a waterproof cover. Couple of extra tubes is recommended. You don't want to be stuck with broken tube. You can fix punctures, but if you have to get a new tube of a specific type deep inside the Himalayas, you're in big trouble. Puncture kit, Allen key, universal key, and what is it there? Pump, of course. Pump is important to blow up your tires. The tire pressure will go down as you go through this terrain, heavily loaded. Couple of chain links and a chain tool to fix a broken chain. Size 15 spanner, very important to fix your pedals after taking your cycle out of the box. And probably the most important tool and gear for a cycle is some WD-88 or another number. I think a 45 might also be good to re-grease your chain as you're gonna go through wet weather, through rain, through dusty roads. Your chain is going to become dry and going to be quite a bit of wear and tear on the chain with dust and small particles, so you have to clean your chain and grease it periodically, otherwise it's gonna possibly crack and break. Also keep in mind that you're putting a lot of pressure on the chain and the cycle as you're pushing uphill very strong with a lot of load, so the tension on the chain will be much higher than in normal city cycling, obviously. Clothing varies, so the basic gears I would suggest a good pair of shoes or even chappals for cyclists. Be comfortable in this hot, humid, dry, wet climate. You don't want to get your feet wet in a closed shoe. Get breathable shoes. 2 pairs of shocks, 2 tees, 2 shorts, 2 chappals. This presentation was made in 2015 when I was still carrying a spare set. Now I would say just carry one dress and that's enough. Here I think I just recommended an extra dry dress for sleeping in the night, so that you don't have to sleep in your sweaty, dirty clothes which you run or cycle during the day. Rain and wind jacket, very important if the weather changes, early mornings and late evenings when the sun gets down. Remember, you're cycling in deeply cut valleys where the sun will disappear after it sets down below the horizon. So you need to keep yourself upper body warm. The legs and the arms are less important. Ziplocs and duffel bags to keep your stuff dry, and when it rains, a small backpack to carry some extra gears. Protect yourself from the sun. The sun at 2, 3, 4,000 meters gets very intense as there is less atmosphere on top of you. So a scarf, a cap, some arm sleeves and some shades is very important. Those with white skin can carry some oil or sun cream to protect your skin from UV light. Phone again, you're gonna go through fairly quickly through villages, so phone battery should be fine, but you can carry a battery pack and your charger obviously to periodically recharge, as the phone is the one that will be used for navigation and staying on the route in case you have splits on the way. Tickets, your return tickets, your ID proof, your cash you want to carry. You don't have ATMs in the middle of nowhere, so carry enough cash for food and expenses travel during the entire journey. Planning a daily run and schedule is mostly like what is shown here. You're gonna go along the route and basically identify all the villages or the towns or the hamlets along the way. That's not always as easy as it sounds. Google Map might not have all these or show all these places along the way, so you'll have to sometimes look at satellite maps to identify the villages along the way. Check what is the distance between each village, so that you know where you will be able to halt at the end of the day, where you will be able to get lunch, where you will be able to get breakfast. Food, as I told, it's nice to depend on dawas along the way, but then of course you need to know whether it's going to be 5 or 15 kilometers till your next food stop. So that way you can split up the entire 500 kilometer in sub villages distances, and then break this down in 50 kilometer pieces day wise, and within every day sub pieces it too for necessary food stops. Identifying towns on the route is not difficult. You just switch to the satellite view on Google Maps and zoom in deep enough to identify those hamlets along the way. Mark these in your map so that you can carry the map offline with you and find those places. In addition to knowing the food stops and the night stops, elevation is very important. So switch also to the terrain view in Google, where it will show you the contour lines, so that you'll have a clear understanding not just on the distance but also on the elevation gain. So see how much climbing and descending you go through in every day, so that for example here every day you can generate a small elevation profile to see whether you're going steep uphill, how many peaks you're gonna cross, how many times, how steep, how gradual these slopes will be. That will be a crucial part as part of your daily route planning, in addition to the distance and the food stops. Planning expense. So again, as I mentioned, a guided tour is much more expensive compared to a self-supported trip. Self-supported, you eliminate any external dependencies on transport, guides, hotels. So in the trips discussed here, where you actually camp outside, even that costly stay disappears, and the only Two major expenses that remain is of course your travel, which I would not include in the trip. I mean, your to and from travel with flights and buses is just a one-time thing. Excluding that, the only remaining cost mainly is about your food, and then a little bit on cycle handling, which falls away for the runners. In case of cycle, you'll have to box up your cycle and pay a little extra to transport that cycle in a bus, or sometimes pay for extra weight on a flight. Daily run and ride schedule looks a little bit like this. You're gonna wake up pretty early and sleep on time as you camp in the outdoors. As soon as the sun hits your tent and the daylight hits your eyes, you're gonna wake up very quickly. The nature will also wake up around you. You'll break up pretty early. 30 minutes is enough for breaking up the tents, toilet, packing, loading everything on the cycles. And then I suggest to go for a small run or cycle ride before you really pick up breakfast. Go for a small run to activate your system. Then enjoy your breakfast, have a good sumptuous breakfast, and then proceed. During the morning, you can actually cover the biggest part of the day because the weather will be very enjoyable. Early morning, 8 to say 12 or 1 p.m. Try to cover at least 25 to 30k out of 50. After that, typically what we do, 1 to 3, we reserve for lunch, maybe a bath somewhere in a nice stream or waterfall, and a power nap. Power nap has two benefits. You're actually cutting out the hottest part of the day. 1 to 3, the sun can be really intense, say in Spiti Valley, high altitude, running in the sun is really draining, so you can as well take a comfortable nap during midday and run a little longer in the mornings and the evenings when it's comfortable. Second benefit of a power nap is of course to take a break after eating a solid lunch. Then 3 o'clock, you have still a good daylight in North India, so you can run actually up till 8 o'clock in the night with daylight, so you have another 5 hours in case it's needed to finish that remaining 50 to 20 kilometer of your daily schedule. By 6 o'clock, I suggest you start looking out for dinner along the way. You can typically you do that wherever you also camp. You're not gonna run much anymore after dinner, as you'll also have to start charging your electronics as you sit down in the dabba before you head out to the campsite a little bit later, maybe in the outskirts of the town, and start unpacking, setting up the camp, and settling down for the night. Hygiene and hydration, not a problem. Everywhere along the way, you're gonna find streams flowing down from the side streams, which are perfect for keeping yourself fresh. There'll be a lot of sweat as you push the cycle up or run throughout the day. So refreshing yourself is important to keep your body clean before you sleep together with 2-3 people in a single tent, obviously. And then, of course, streams are also very chill, very refreshing as you run through the middle of the day when it gets quite sunny. So water, actually, I've never carried along with me. Water also for drinking purposes you'll find on a regular distance. If you can run 10k without water, then there is no need to carry it along with you. Food again, food just planned for those towns along the way, as we did through the route planning. So you know, is it 5, is it 10, is it 15 kilometers till the next food stop? According to that, you can plan where you will have food for lunch, for dinner. Breakfast can be in the same place as where you had dinner the previous day. It's good to carry a couple of extra dry fruits, energy bars, in just in case you come across no town or a closed dabba along the way that you're not out of food, especially when you burn a lot of calories on the cycle and the run. You don't want to be out of energy, or you're simply not going to move forward anymore. Voila. So then navigation and maps, right? You carry that schedule with you, that route schedule. Mark the villages on the map. You can use, like in recent days, I would more recommend OpenStreetMaps and OSM A and D. In the olden days, I used Orux Maps, which also allows you to store offline maps, in that case, offline Google Terrain Maps, so you also have a clear idea about the topography. So carrying contours, carrying the route, carrying the night and food stops in your phone is essential. Switch off that phone in flight mode. and battery savings mode so that the phone battery will easily last 1 or 2 days. Navigation is not a big deal as these self-supported journeys mostly go on the routes, and as you run through a long valley, there are not going to be much junctions along the way where you can go wrong. You always have, of course, the local people to ask for directions. Night stay then. So again, night stay, right? You mostly, if possible, try to stay somewhere near a town. You're anyway gonna take your dinner in a town, depending on dabbas. So in the outskirts of the dabba, or in the front of a house, a portico, or somewhere along the road, you can pitch up your tent safely. Of course, make sure that no vehicle will drive over your tent. Many cases, hospitality is there, less with bigger groups, more when you go solo or just with 1 or 2 people, where people locals will be more eager to invite you into their home for night stay. And then, of course, people along the way make it very enjoyable. You sometimes come across here some nomads, like semi-nomadic people who basically stay in the lower Himalayas and the plains during the summer, and then, during the winter. During the summer, they move with their cattle and animals, an entire family somewhere, children and women, cover large distances, have horses, donkeys, goats along with them, carry their sleeping gears, their blankets, their cooking utensils on their animals. So staying one night along with these people is also quite an interesting experience. They were actually the ones, just like our forefathers, who used to be nomadic before we started settling down in in cities in the plains. Scenic routes I can recommend. Obviously, the usual is the Manali Leh route, which I think is a little bit less interesting now, has become a little bit too commercial, too much nice highway road, too much of traffic. More recommended, I would suggest either the Spiti Valley going from Shimla to Manali, which is a nice 600-700 kilometer, or then from the Srinagar side, doing the entire Pangi Valley through the Himalayas and ending up at Manali. Thanks for watching this webinar on self-supported journeys. You can find all the episodes on YouTube and Ultra Journeys. Stay tuned for many more webinars to come. You can find all of them on my blog, ultrajourneys.org. Happy touring in the Himalayas.